Bianca Isherwood, Milton Ward candidate for the Heritage Party. I'm here today with Laura Hurley.
Council Ward for the Heritage Party.
Adam Isherwood.
Yeah.
Just say your own name.
Okay. Adam Isherwood. Hello, I'm Adam Isherwood, candidate of Fort Ward.
And we're here today to talk to Dan by Whom by Fire about the ongoing history he has with cancellations to do with Southend Pride, Southend Transpire, St Mark's Church, Lee Folk Festival, and all of that good stuff. So just for a disclaimer, all of the statements are our own opinions to our own individual selves during this interview. Okay, so Dan, if you could give us a really brief bullet point summary of where it started, of how this all started.
Yeah, so last year my band was due to perform at the Lee Folk Festival. It's a festival that we've performed at a number of times over the years. Very shortly, I think it was in a week or two before the festival was due to go ahead, we received an email informing us that we would be pulled from the event due to social media comments, nothing specific. Since then, we've been targeted at other events we've put on, which have been cancelled due to, I think it's called anti-queer rhetoric. Again, nothing particularly specific, just very vague accusations.
Okay. So the first thing was the Lee Folk Festival. And this was because you expressed an opinion online about an event.
Yeah.
So I've seen your other interviews, and I'd just like to bring up this fact. I'd just like to reinstate and reiterate that I love the Ironworks in Southend, and if it's still on the rocks of its closure, I'd love to support it staying open as part of my campaign this year, because we really do need a community centre in Milton Ward and in Central Southend, and the Ironworks has done an amazing job. However, this event that you mentioned happened at the Ironworks, and it was a Southend Pride event hosted by Southend Pride.
It was promoted by Southend Pride.
Promoted by Southend Pride. So we're not sure who the exact organiser of it was, but they were reading from a book. And the book was called Towards a Gay Communism.
That's right.
Yeah, by
Mario Miele.
Okay, yeah. And in this book, it talks about having anal sex with children, deceased people, and animals, among other things. And this event should have had some kind of safeguarding, or someone on the door that said, "Hi, just to make you aware, we're having this event here today. It does contain
Sensitive
content. You know, we think there may have been a pre-warning that it's not suitable for under 16s or under 15s.
Yeah.
But still, there was nothing stopping the general public from walking in with children that day, of which they often are, because the Ironworks is a good hub for families, children.
There's kids playing.
They've always got the kids' play area open, and to our knowledge, it wasn't shut that day. So I would like to bring to the attention that we do need greater safeguarding in terms of what children are allowed to be witness to, you know. And I'm not coming down on the Ironworks by any means, because I think they do great work, or no individual in particular, but as a whole, that's been a very swept under the rug important detail, that who let that happen in the first place, right? So I applaud you for pointing that out. Yeah. And this is the whole thing that got you cancelled from the Lee Folk Festival.
It certainly sounds like that. They didn't actually say 100% what it was, but it was definitely implied that that was what they were. They received complaints about, and I've spoken to people from the Pride community about that issue, and they certainly didn't deny that that was the issue that they were upset about.
Okay. And then on the back of that, you did some quite high-profile interviews. Been on GB News a couple of times.
Yeah.
And from that, what's happened since that?
So we've had, based off that one of those interviews, we had another event called at a church called St Mark's, and they used that video as evidence to cancel a gig that we had scheduled to put on at their church. We had already sold tickets for that event. We've also put on events at that church previously where nobody was harmed. Everybody had a good time before, but because of this interview, they said that they weren't happy to have us performing at their church because they're an inclusive church.
And so no one has been able to until very, very recently. And you kept asking a question, and I quoted you from another podcast you did.
Yeah.
Anti-paedophilia has nothing to do with queerness unless you're including paedophilia as a queer issue. I asked her, talking about Mother Cherry, if she was including that, and she just didn't answer the question.
So that
was previous.
Yeah, I tried to, because most of these accusations have been like pretty vague, and my main concern was about the attempts, as I see it, to try and sexualise children and what seems like endorsing paedophilia in some cases, and the pride and the community seem to like have this umbrella term called queer, which encapsulates all of these things, and it seems like there's an attempt to try and include paedophilia in that. At least it looks like that.
Well, we do have the maps, which are the minor attracted people.
Yeah.
And am I right in thinking that their colours are the pink and the blue? The pale pastel pink and the pale baby blue.
Yeah, it has come up. I don't know if I can actually say that for facts.
They are the Southend Transpire colours.
Right.
And they are on the flag that is used in the St Mark's Centre.
Right.
The Pride flag. To my knowledge, there are two different versions of the Pride flag, one with that, one without. But I could be wrong, so I don't know. But just a big question mark over that.
Just before we go any further, though, your statement against the event about the book reading.
Yeah.
That wasn't. You didn't put that statement up as your band.
No. That was my personal feelings.
So that was your personal opinion.
Yeah. No, we're not.
Did you ask everyone to rise up, or did you just display your disgust?
I didn't even display my disgust as such. I just asked the question because I didn't know a great deal about the event.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was a discussion about the book. I didn't know if they're saying this is a bit weird. Or I just said, is this appropriate? Words to that effect.
Right.
Like, why is this happening?
Yeah. So you just put basically starting a conversation.
And why isn't this an adult-only event? Things like that. Like, you know.
But my point is, I just want to go through. Your band has been attacked.
Yeah.
You've lost earnings.
We have lost earnings.
Yeah, which is terrible, really.
Come back to that in a second. But what I was going to say is, you have now had an answer from
Father Daly.
Father Daly has actually answered that question.
Yeah, he. After I put the question to Mother Cherry and Father Daly and asked them what is the church's position on paedophilia. I didn't get an answer from Mother Cherry. Father Daly, I think it took him like a month or two to reply. He did say that he and the church condemns paedophilia, which I was very glad to hear.
Only through private correspondence.
Only through private correspondence.
And only from him, although we're assuming he's speaking on behalf of Mother Cherry as well. Would like to put in that I do know Mother Cherry. She was my university lecturer. And I did invite her to have this interview with us. We wanted to have Mother Cherry here to sit down and have a conversation and have her as part of this interview. And also we asked for a member of the Southend Pride community. Would anyone from that community like to come and join in this discussion that we're having here today? but they have a no.
Yeah, it's their policy, not it's not a debate.
Yeah, so they have a policy where they
Very
won't
democratic.
debate.
It's a bit culty, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know, we're not going to sit here and we're not pointing the finger at individuals, but we're just saying this is what's happened factually. You asked the question, you didn't get a reply, but you have now had a reply from Dally. Is it Dally?
Yeah.
And they declined to be here as part of this conversation. So, bringing it back to loss of earnings, you had loss of earnings from the Leaf Folk Festival, loss of earnings at the St Mark's venue, which already you had sold tickets for, and then someone attempted to cancel you from the 21.
Yeah. So a friend of ours was asked us to perform at an event that they were organising, and our friend actually happens to be trans, and they were due to be performing on the bill as well. But members of or associates of Southend Pride tried to get that event pulled as well, based on us being an anti-queer, anti-trans band, which is bizarre. Unsuccessfully, actually.
Sorry, not bizarre, but you're not. Let's state it now. You're not anti-trans. You're not anti-gay.
Especially not an anti-queer band, because you don't make music saying death to trans people or.
Don't say your gigs are not rise up against the gay.
I've got no problem with adults doing what they want to do with other consenting adults.
I think that should be put there. You're not what they're accusing you. You are not.
No, I'm not. No, I've got my opinions on what might constitute being trans, and why that may take place.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen any evidence that it's possible to change your sex. So until then, I think my opinions that will stay the same. So yeah.
Well, here at the Heritage Party, we believe there are two sexes, male and female, determined at birth by chromosomes. We don't believe there are hundreds of millions of genders, but we also believe that there is difference, I believe there is difference between gender and sexuality. The gender is your gender as a person, and your sexuality is your sexual preference, which has nothing to do with children. And should not be around children. Well, we should not be asking children what their sexuality is.
Behind closed doors, what's it to do? Why should it has to be like almost like a part of your personality profile now, which is I don't understand, especially publicly.
So we actually complained, myself and Laura. We actually did a online complaints form. Call it a complaints form?
Yeah.
To question the behaviour of the charities Southend Pride and Southend Transpire. Because if they're a charity, why are they orchestrating what could be called a hate crime?
It is a hate campaign.
A discrimination campaign against the band Home by Fire, where they are repeatedly writing to venues like the church, like 21, a Leaf Folk Festival, and asking the organisers to cancel the band Home by Fire, causing loss of earnings. That is not, in our eyes, an appropriate behaviour for a charity.
No.
Yeah. So we're not writing to the Ironworks to ask them to cancel Pride events at the Ironworks. I'm asking them to safeguard it from children should they be potentially inappropriate for children's eyes and ears. Yeah.
Well, it's not the point, is it? I mean, even in the day, Ironworks, it's their venue. They can put on whatever events they want, but they have to do so in correspondence to the law and the laws of society, and that is safeguarding of children. They can't hold these events that has this kind of material. Let's be honest. That book, the content of that book, you could not. I mean, I read the extract from the deprogrammed. The extract that was read out. I mean, I won't take away someone else's thing and quote it myself. You can go and see the interview. But there is no possible way you could put that content in a U graded or a PG graded film, right? That's my thing on a legal standing. That's a product put out there, and there will be no way that could be put into a U or PG graded, which means, therefore, the content is not suitable for children. So if it's not suitable for children, then this event should take on the responsibility of screening this material away from children.
Which brings us back to the point of, how are you anti-queer? How are you anti-queer? So what was the argument from the church?
Well, this was the problem. It's this banding together, because being honest, your issue is anti-paedophilia.
Yeah,
and obviously the
As
content.
is all of our issues.
Yeah, and the content of the book was also necrophilia and every other disgusting perversion.
Yeah, I'm also against necrophilia.
Yeah.
Raise your hand.
So this is the question with these charities: is why are they protecting this issue? That's the big question.
Yeah, I think the thing is they won't say what is queer and what isn't. Like, I mean, when I was growing up, queer meant, you know, gay, bisexual, etc. Well, not etc. As it does today. You know what I'm saying, anyway. So I think if you know, the representative from Pride would say exactly what constitutes being queer, it would be easier for me to say if I'm anti-queer or not. I'm certainly not anti-gay, bisexual, trans.
No, I don't think any of us would say that we are any of those things.
But seeing as they're including book readings which condone paedophilia, necrophilia, and that sort of thing.
One of the is rife for redemption.
Right, ripe for redemption.
So I mean, let's also put it out there that this book isn't, because the book could have just been talking about it, but then also talking about it negatively. But the book's not, is it? It's actually pro.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I mean, well, you can't have a statement like that and not.
I think. I mean, they did. I think the problem was there wasn't anything to say that they were against what this book was like promoting. So, and I think if you were going to put a book reading on, you know, like reading Mein Kampf or something like that, you probably, well, it'd be obvious that you're against it, hopefully, and you would, you know, you wouldn't go stepping into the event, you know. And that sort of thing.
even if we get a response from Southend Pride or the Ironworks and said that they read this book out to talk about how they are also in support. Like, the Heritage Party is a big supporter of the organisation Gays Against Groomers. So even if they were reading this or discussing it, that's still because you're still saying the words out loud and saying, "Oh, I'm disgusted by this. This reflects negatively on our community."
Yeah.
There's still the same issue which should have been safeguarded from the ears of children.
Yeah, I think so. But it would definitely go some way to. It would definitely be a lot better than saying that, you know, this is something that should be celebrated, which, you know, that's what it looks like.
Yes, which is more likely the case. But if you tell us more about personal implications you've had in person with members of these communities, when we're talking about members that are part of the Southend Pride community and the Trans Pride community.
Yeah, I've just had a bit of abuse and some sort of threats to me. You know, members of the community saying that they could beat me up and things like that.
The way you expressed the conversation was, just so you can put it out there, it was a very passive threat of aggression on you, which wasn't appropriate.
No. It's not something that I'm taking particularly seriously, but
someone else, if it was the other way around, if you had gone to a member of the community and said,
I do kickbox. So there was something on the lines, and I don't. So, you know, when we're doing these things, it's important to put content. Yeah, we're not naming the person, but they said that. Something. Please tell me where I'm wrong.
Yeah,
they do kickboxing, and they could knock you out. Yeah, and this was while this discussion was going about the issues that we're talking about today.
Yeah.
And she's glad that you got cancelled because she might have had to use those skills.
Well, I'm assuming it's she. I don't want to inadvertently misgender.
Yeah. This person from the community.
What she doesn't know is that I also do kickboxing.
And obviously in self-defence.
Yeah.
Self-defence.
I mean, abuse either way is wrong.
Yeah.
It's abuse to someone's opinion on something. They're entitled to their opinion on paedophilia, and it shouldn't be spoken about openly in a public place. So that is you're entitled to that opinion, and then to be abused for that opinion and cancelled is wrong.
Yeah,
and that shouldn't be happening.
And if you'd gone up to someone and said, "I could potentially beat you up, and I don't like a band, and I don't like
for your opinion, for your opinion, that's the point. The threat was there for your opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you would be, you would be completely in the wrong.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been compared to Hitler online and things like that. Just pretty mild insult.
Well, it's not a mild insult.
No,
let's be honest. But let's put the seriousness. You've been publicly branded like Adolf Hitler, one of the deemed most evilest men in history.
Trying to start my head.
Yeah,
and but it's not
because you're against paedophilia. I mean, that is crazy. That is absolutely crazy.
Because your business is a band. You're a public.
I
don't say it's a popularity thing. So all this is pretty damaging.
It is damaging. Potentially. We have been we've lost earnings, but I mean, what I'm thankful for every gig we've had cancelled, we've had a new gig offer from, and it's normally turned out actually for the best for us. So there's a lot of people out there that are really supportive of. I think actually most people are supportive of the sort of stance that we all have. I mean, because it's not extreme what any of us think. It's like mainstream. Really, it's just
the opinion of being against paedophilia, a criminal act. It shouldn't be an unpopular opinion, should it?
Yeah.
I think that should be pretty universal in society, isn't it?
And I think as well, I have expressed opinions about, I think safe spaces for women is really important.
That's on our local manifesto. We would like to keep safe spaces.
That is a genuine...
Or women's spaces.
Yeah, and I mean, you can point to absolutely disastrous things like biological men being put into women's prisons.
That statistic is very, very high of rape within trans women.
Yeah.
Trans women in women's prisons. Is that right?
I think, are they women? Is it trans? It's really confusing, isn't it?
People with male anatomy that identify as trans being put into female-only prisons has resulted in a very high statistic in rape, is what I'm trying to say.
A definite factual increase.
And it's given genuine trans people, it's really, really damaging their lives.
It's not fair to them.
And they don't agree with what's happening from trans ladies I've spoken to. And it is really damaging the community as a whole. This whole thing, it's just, it's being used by some people and taken advantage of for their own behaviours, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like a Trojan horse, isn't it?
And I'm really happy for you and the band that it's resulted in better, bigger things for you.
Cheers.
But what if it hadn't?
Well, exactly.
What if you were someone else who had a podcast and then got cancelled?
This scenario isn't unique, is it?
No.
There's other people in your shows where it hasn't gone well for them.
No, I know. I mean, I've got friends who've been on the receiving end of being targeted by Pride and their associates, it's really damaged them. It's really ruined their lives. Really, I mean, that hasn't. I wouldn't say that for me. I found it quite amusing mostly, but
that's more your disposition. Because this isn't amusing, really. This is because you, as I said, you're being attacked, and it's not. It's malicious.
Yeah, I think if it was me in your position, I would be devastated because I'm definitely not anti anybody being who they want to be.
Yeah.
But if I
So
was,
separate from the loss of earnings,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
also
I'd be,
offended
yeah,
about how
personally,
you're
I'd
being
be,
painted out.
yeah, I'd be really upset, to be honest, and I would
Well,
want to have conversation with the community to mend the bridges from this, because it's
your own
unnecessary.
character, isn't it?
It's
Being falsely
unnecessary.
betrayed.
Yeah,
I think sort of, going through the last few years of, being locked in your home for 2 years, and having the government threaten you and try and force medicate you, and watching several of my friends die after taking certain medical procedures. I think
call them experimental injections.
Yeah,
which is the technical term.
I think having, I think like after that, like having a few, rainbow extremists target me and call me names. It's not something that I take particularly seriously. Like I don't. Okay, I do take it seriously, but I'm not. It's not.
Yeah.
It's pretty small.
It is part of Agenda 2030. So from the experimental injections to death toll to the
Marxism.
To the woke agendas, they're all part of Agenda 2030. So obviously there are areas that are more of a greater importance, but they all are part of that agenda.
And it's confusing and ruining our society.
Yeah. And it's also distracting from the greater issues. So there are many things at play.
That's what I said, it is ruining society. I mean, why should you... I mean,
before 2020, none of this was ever a problem.
No, there wasn't.
And then all of a sudden we flipped, and it's ridiculous. Like, I find it's really damaging to all corners of our society.
Not being funny, gay rights wasn't it? It wasn't a terrible issue. These people were not being discriminated. There's been no attacks. They've got the freedoms. They've got the liberty. And now, why are they on the attack? No one was really attacking them.
Well, the only arguable thing they don't have is that trans individuals don't yet have the right to use every single women's space. Other than that, in the law states that as a person, and I support this, they should have all human rights. They have,
of course,
they have
absolutely,
all human rights.
Yeah.
The legal system, protection, everything
that's
else.
They've got it.
Access to medical, access to everything else. There's no particular discrimination.
I do think there are still people within society that are discriminatory towards gay people, and I've spoken to people that have been abused in the street. So that still goes on.
That's a societal issue.
That was wrong.
But
definitely.
on a legal issue, it is not. It's not an issue. And I mean, when you're saying about the safe spaces.
Well, not just safe spaces, just women's spaces.
The
women's spaces that I would never support that trans people or trans women be part of are things such as breastfeeding groups or clinics. Not chest feeding, breast clinic. Purely because
chest feeding.
It's called we'd have to call it chest feeding. But, pregnant men, if they're feeding a baby from their chest, they're obviously taking several hormones. And that is coming out in the chest milk. So for that, I will never condone that trans women be a part of breastfeeding clinics. Women, I don't think they belong in menopause groups. I'm sorry, I'm just going to come out and say I don't think trans women have periods or menopause, right? They don't.
Of course they don't.
Right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I wouldn't condone that they would be part of menopause groups.
No.
I don't
But
believe
they wouldn't have to be, would they?
Well, yeah, they want to be part of women's spaces.
They wouldn't have the hormonal problems.
Well, they feel like they do, Laura.
Okay.
They feel like they do. There's many videos online.
But let's be honest.
And the last one is abortion, trauma, or miscarriage groups. I don't think trans women should be able
to be on one of those groups.
Because it's irresponsible, isn't it? It's irresponsibility. Now, look, again, everyone in this country has the right to as what they do is not illegal, hence the paedophilia, but to do what they want, providing what they do is not illegal nor harmful to everyone, right? Now, like what you just experienced, like the abortion, the abortion clinics and all that. Some of these things, people who are going there are vulnerable, mentally vulnerable, and the irresponsibility of this person coming in, who, let's be honest, is not experiencing the issue, can cause trauma and damage to the people who are really suffering from these problems. That's an irresponsibility, because they can. It's not means that they should, and that's this is where this issue needs to be, again, a two-way conversation, which brings back to the original issue that there was no two-way conversation.
It should be debated it should be rectified.
I know, this is the problem, because one side doesn't want to hear it, they want their own way.
It should be rectified. People are allowed their opinions, and for it to have gone on this long.
Yeah.
It's really, it's ridiculous.
It's the responsibility of it. I mean, exactly, like, I mean, as you said, it's turned out that everything has been all right for you, but it's the responsibility of their actions. Could have done some serious harm to you.
Yeah.
Loss of earnings.
Well, some people I know have been targeted online for things they've said, and they have nearly took their own lives. So it's it can push people into that.
This is it, and it's that irresponsible behaviour that needs to be checked.
It needs to be both ways, not just one way.
No,
it needs to go both ways.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any thoughts on the St Mark's Church? I was talking to a bunch of Christian homeschool mums yesterday, and they believe that churches like St Mark's, who are naming themselves an inclusive church, but continue to host pride events.
Well, not that inclusive, because this guy's not welcome.
Yeah, obviously they're excluding people.
Yeah.
Then they should not be called churches, and they should be changing their names to community centres.
Well, they're not,
or faith-centred community centres, and not church.
Look,
wasn't it true before?
Let's ask our guests.
Oh
yeah, sorry.
Well, it certainly came across the church. The main authority for St Mark's in Southend was not God, and was actually pride. So I would say it's definitely not appropriate for them to remain a Christian church. Maybe Church of Satan, perhaps. Just putting it out there.
He's allowed to express his own opinions.
Yeah.
Free speech, liberty.
Yeah. But let's be honest, right? So he's actually, who was it that, can we say the person that actually said that they're not a church of God?
No, no one said there wasn't a church.
My
friends. No.
I said that they're not a church.
Oh, right. Well, they, as you say, they've got to really double down on what their church actually represents. And either way, a church doesn't go around cancelling people, harassing people, assaulting people. That's not the behaviour of a church.
Yeah.
That's not the behaviour of a community centre. That's not the behaviour of a charity.
Although I believe that obviously
it's an activist group.
It wasn't the church that initially took that action. It was them being puppeteered by an organisation, which is an organisation or a group of activists that are calling themselves a charity, that are claiming money as a charity, and are causing lots of earnings. Potentially could have seriously damaged your mental health. Yeah, potentially. We're great that he didn't, but you don't know who you're targeting.
No, that's it.
Different levels, so.
Yeah, and I think as well, going back to St Mark's, whether it is a church of God, I mean, they've hosted Drag Queen Storytime, which was part of Southend Pride, and they're due to host another Drag Queen Storytime later this month. I would say that that is child grooming.
Yeah.
And
worse we all.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing would be to have Ofsted look at these events and then deem them, is it fine?
Well,
I mean,
there was photos taken of the last event, and it was a drag queen, a scantily clad drag queen performing for young children. This, it looks bad. And
well, like I always say, would we be okay if we got a pole dancer or a stripper come into a children's event wearing a G-string and nipple tassels and wanting to sit down and read to the children or perform for the children?
Well, it's not even the point. They're sitting down and reading; they're performing. It's unnecessary.
No, they do sometimes get up and do routines during these story times.
Yeah, but why? What's the why? Why is that?
I wouldn't be okay with that.
No.
So
I mean, I'm all up for a trans person to come in and read a story, a child-appropriate story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
to explain
If
the
you're a
issue.
trans woman, why can't you dress like Nara?
Yeah, and just
Why can't
come
you
in
dress
and
like a
read.
woman?
Yeah,
What's
instead
the-
of being
Why is there?
Well, they do-
If a man off the street, just as a man came in and said he wanted to read stories to children, he wouldn't be allowed to.
No.
So it's just unusual why this is not being looked into, really.
Well, they don't.
Is it safeguarding our children? Do they need to really be exposed to that
Well, of course,
at a young age?
They don't go into care homes and perform for old people in
Elderly
care.
people, yeah.
And why are they targeting the
They
children?
might enjoy that.
Well, that would probably brighten up their day. It would be actually probably a good
More
week.
appropriate. Everyone there,
Yeah, we'd enjoy it. They'd
Why
have a
is it the
sing
children?
song.
Why is it the children?
They'd have
being
a
targeted?
great time. It would be a fantastic idea, actually.
I support that. Everyone.
Yeah, we would support that. Yeah, they'd be old enough to, and they'd have a fantastic enjoyment. I mean,
Appropriate.
I mean,
yeah.
I think like most of I would say most of the prior community, if not all of them, support transgender transitioning for children,
Yeah.
like the mutilation of children. So it's not really a stretch to think that they would be also in favour of paedophilia.
No, unfortunately.
And if that's not the case, then they should probably come out and say that that's not the case.
Yeah.
But they don't, and
No.
according to them, it's not a debate.
No, this is the problem. It gives you several reasons.
And everybody other than us is afraid to talk about it for their own self-preservation,
Yeah.
their own
And
fear of some trolling online.
that's the problem. That is the problem, because 90% of people do actually agree with what we're saying.
Yeah. Everyone's scared to say it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the bundling of the issue, as you said. Your issue was anti-pedophilia and anti-sexualisation of children. That is not a queer or trans issue. Let's be honest, it's not a queer or trans issue. It's got nothing to do with it, does it? Really?
Well, we don't know what
Let's
No, unless
we haven't
it's like any
it's
organisation.
not a trans issue, but we haven't been told by the authority that is Pride what constitutes being queer.
Yeah,
because
I would. Well,
there's so many. There's like new letters in there.
I know it's confusing, but let's be honest. But the issues of a trans person being trans and a queer person being queer has got nothing to do. I do not see why it has to always
I
be.
think isn't the queer part for questioning where you're unsure, but you're definitely not straight.
That's still not. But
That's not
why is that
yeah.
particularly children?
I'm just saying.
And again, what's that got to do with? But what's that got to do with?
Well, that just brings me back to
The sexualisation of children is illegal. It's illegal. It's not deemed appropriate in our society.
Yeah, it is happening in schools with the new RS
But that's because of the shielding. Yeah, and this is what I'd love to sit down and have a conversation with Pride or with Transpire, and I understand why are you as a community for gay and trans people protecting, which would be rightly so criticism of pro-paedophilia and sexualisation of children agenda being put in. Why are you protecting that? Because it's got nothing to do with you. It's got nothing to do with it. I've got no problem with trans people. I've got no problem with gay people.
It's totally separate.
It's a separate thing. Yet the people. It's not even the community. It's the people that stand as spokespeople for those communities come in and rush to defend
Paedophilia
and sexualisation of children. Why? That's the question.
A good question.
Yeah.
Because
anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up? Because we could have gone on so many tangents.
No, that's very
talking
good.
about the Heritage Party and our manifesto. I mean, they've gone past my head now, but a lot of the things we've discussed today are in our Heritage Manifesto. So I would ask everyone to go have a look at our main website, heritageparty.org. Yeah, it's heritageparty.org, so check. Obviously, we would keep women's spaces. We would not have transgender clinics for children or the distribution of hormone blockers to children in the country. We would keep women's spaces, women's safe spaces, and we would get rid of the RSE curriculum that is currently in schools, which confuses and sexualises and grooms children. Yep.
Yeah.
Does not mean we would close down every gay bar in the country.
No.
No, it's not. If you're an adult, then absolutely, it's not a problem. Paedophilia is a problem.
Yeah.
Sexualisation of children. Children don't need to know about sex when they're in primary school.
And also, charities not acting like charities is a problem, which we will
let's be honest.
have to discuss and see what else could be done about that.
Yeah, charities acting like activist schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan.
As
Yeah.
Dan
No
himself actually wrote to our party leader, David Curtin, and David Curtin kindly passed it on to us as we are Southend Heritage Party. And anything else anyone wants to say?
No,
I've ranted enough.
thank you.
Thank you for listening.